Thanks for tuning in. We're Ace Comicals. I have with me my co-host Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. I'm Greg Driver. Let's get started. Snow outside, a roaring fire, a glass of whiskey, and an ugly sweater. Welcome to a very Ace Comicals Christmas. With us, your hosts for this evening of cheer, peace, and good comics to all, Rahul, Leon, and of course me, Greg. Season's greetings with some seasonal comics. Welcome to the Ace Comicals Christmas Special. I have both of my co-hosts, Rahul and Leon, with me today.
Happy holidays, Greg.
Hello, dudes.
So today is a special episode. Instead of us doing the usual fortnightly roundup of newish comics that we've been reading, we'll instead be talking about a few Christmas-themed picks that we've read and sort of picked out from across the years. Some of it's newer, some of it's older. And we're going to end on the headline act, which is our favourite collectively, the 1995 Batman Adventures Holiday Special. So, guys, what have we got planned over Christmas this year?
I'm going to Italy for Christmas, so it's the first time I've been away from home for Christmas ever in my life. No, sorry, that's the first time since I was a kid. I used to go to India a couple of times over the December-January period, and in the last few years, my parents have been going to India every December, so they've not been around for Christmas. And normally I end up having Christmas either at my sister's or at a friend's house because, you know, my parents aren't around for it. And my girlfriend goes back home to Italy. And so this is the first time I'm visiting her family at Christmas. Normally I go Easter. So that should be exciting. Might be a bit scary. I have no idea what to buy her family for Christmas. If you guys have any ideas, then let me know. But yeah, that's what I've got on my plate.
That's always a difficult one, isn't it? Buying Christmas presents for sort of in-laws type thing. It's like
minefield.
Yeah.
Well, I normally buy her dad whiskey from duty free, and he digs it. And in the past, I brought her brother comics, and he's dug that. But like, I'm running out of ideas. And her mum is difficult to get for. Like, I buy her scarves and stuff, but like, how many scarves can you get a lady? So, yeah, suggestions are welcome.
Yeah. This year, I'm spending Christmas in Hungary with Sophie's parents. We're quite lucky in the fact that the way we do sort of Christmas shopping for parents is I buy something that I know my mum will want, and then it's from both of us, and then vice versa. So,
yeah, it seems like a good way to avoid mistakes, I guess.
That's the way we do it. We buy like one thing between us and sign it from both of us, and I'll do the shopping for my parents because I know what they want or what they like, and Sophie will pick things that she knows her mother and father want, because obviously she knows them better than me, and then we just sign from both of us. It's the way we usually go about this. So yeah.
No, that's too much sharing the blame. Like, if I mess up Anna's for it.
And Anna would leave you on your own, would she?
Yeah, she would throw me to the wolves.
Leon, what's your plans this year?
Yeah, nothing special this year. Unlike you jet setters, I'm not going abroad. But what I am doing is spending Christmas in London with my family, which is a bit different now because I was living in Bristol for the last sort of 4 years. So I'd always travel home over the Christmas period, and it was traveling home to get back to London for Christmas is always hellish because like we'd be working all the way up to like Christmas Eve a lot of the time, and traveling on Christmas Eve is horrible. But this time it's completely flipped because I'm in London now, so it's a lot less stress. But then what I'm doing after Christmas is going to Bristol and spending some time with some friends up to New Year before I come back.
That sounds cool.
The thing about traveling home for Christmas is that it's a nightmare doing the traveling, and it's loads of stress having to grab all your stuff, and like bringing presents and things as well is always a nightmare. But at least when you get home, you get looked after because everything's set up and nobody expects you to have, like, if you're arriving on Christmas Eve, then all the food will be ready and all the, the decorations will be done. But if you're living at home, then do you have to deal with all that stuff now? Or have you thought about that?
Yeah, have you got to help out?
It's what I'm getting at, yeah.
To a degree, but I mean, that's quite a well-oiled machine, so my input just ends up being like extra stuff and helping out with some Christmassy stuff that might have got overlooked. So yeah, I mean, it's working out pretty well. The thing I'm looking forward to most after the food and after people opening the presents I got them is all the local multiplayer stuff, because I've got a decent amount of siblings, so it's always good when we can come together and then spend hours and hours like facing each other off at like beat 'em ups and like silly sports games and stuff. And like the setup is pretty hardcore this year because I've got SNES Mini already. I've got a lot of sort of Steam party games and such, and we've got a couple newer beat 'em ups on the go. So it's gonna be fun and tense. A lot of shit talking and a lot of banter. So I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's pre-Christmas for me, because what I do, I've got like a couple of guys that I've known since I was time immemorial, and we always do. We've like for every year we've always done this one thing where we get together on like Christmas Eve or before Christmas Eve if we can't make Christmas Eve, and we exchange gifts and play video games, and we usually play Mario Party.
Wow, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah, that's risky.
Oh yeah, we know exactly what we're doing to ourselves, but yeah, we've got like between us, we've got all the Mario Party games, so we usually just pick one and pick the console like N64 or whatever and play Mario Party, and we do like a 50 turn game or something, and it lasts all night. And at the moment, Jammy is the reigning champion. My friend Jammy, he's like the reigning champion. He's won like the past 2 or 3 years in a row or something silly like that. So I've got to knock him off his pedestal.
Yeah, he needs to be taken down.
Anyway, speaking of things getting taken down, way down, into the depths of hell, we're going to open with the Hellboy Christmas Special from 1997. So this is like an anthology type deal with a collection of Christmas stories. We start it with like a tale with a horror edge, which is the Hellboy story. In my eyes, this is the best one. It's got everything. It's, you know, touching, a little bit sad, a little bit happy, action packed, and it basically deals with Hellboy having been asked to help somebody on their deathbed to find their missing daughter, who went missing in a graveyard, which we learn isn't just a graveyard, in the grounds of this ancient old house that her family had moved into in England. And we find out that she's actually been betrothed to a demon prince, but the demon prince has sort of cast a kind of spell, a glamour of sorts, to make everything look like a fairy tale, you know? Like, when she's there, it's like an imaginary world for her, but he's just keeping her prisoner. And because of that as well, this is why there's like a curse on the house and on her family. So you two read this as well, right?
Yeah, I read this one from the Christmas special. I think it's called A Christmas Underground. I didn't read the other two.
Yeah. So what did you think of this one then, Ray?
I really like this. I liked how little there is explained, and it's almost like a puzzle that you have to figure out the narrative for yourself a little bit. Like, I did have to read it a couple of times to get the full gist of what was happening. And like you said, it's kind of fairy tale-ish. And like, I really enjoyed like some of the turns in it. So there's the dying woman gives Hellboy an item to pass on to her daughter. And when he does finally pass it over, there's like this big explosion, this change that happens in the glamour. And I love the way that it transforms from one to the other.
Like, he breaks the spell by giving her the item, because it sort of like jogs her memory kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
it's great the way it splashes outwards and there's this explosion of colour from it.
Yeah, and I like the whole setup of it when he's in the bedroom with the dying mother, and she thinks he's Saint Nick.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that is great.
Yeah, because he's up there on Christmas Eve, and as he's leaving the room, the mother's kind of like, "Oh, I knew it was you," sort of thing. You're Santa Claus, and you sort of get a panel with Hellboy, and then the same panel but Hellboy wearing Santa clothes, kind of thing.
And kind of like a dark elfish Santa, not like the Coca-Cola Santa that we know.
It's a more traditional Santa.
But it's Father Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. Santa Claus, Father Christmas, Saint Nick, Santa Claus, all the same guy. And you get I like this whole idea that it kind of like the Demon Prince had sort of played on her, because that you get the idea that she was quite imaginative and quite a how do they describe her in the book? There's a word they use,
like eccentric, was it?
Yeah, eccentric or something like that, and because of the way she is, he sort of like feeds on that, and that's how he manages to coax her into his realm, kind of thing.
Yeah, because there's a panel where the priest is like, she was the favourite and artistic child, happy but too much imagination for this place. It made her strange.
Yeah,
it made her strange. Yeah,
and there's a point when Hellboy gets down there, and because she's under the spell, she uses a couple of different names to call him. That's it. Yeah, Lancelot, or maybe de Bergerac toppled from the moon. There we go. Because she's obviously she's like all these fictional characters that she's read about and everything are being brought to life down here, and she's been
trapped in her fantasy.
Yeah, she's been kept down there, trapped in a fantasy. But she's just feeding this demon because while she's down there, I think the demon's feeding off her family is the idea we get. But obviously, Hellboy saves the day. He brings her back up to the world and breaks the spell, and the tale ends. Yeah, this book won an Eisner. I'm not sure on the specifics of what the Eisner was won for, as in like which story within the anthology and everything else, but it won an Eisner. I'm thinking it might have been this story, this Hellboy tale. The next couple of stories in this book, I mean, you've got like some written word stuff as well, which is it's one of the writers he's kind of basically, he was given a blank page and told to write something for the book, but he couldn't think of anything to write, so he's written like a whole story about his fear of having nothing to write. And in the end, he ends up with something to write because of all these strange coincidences surrounding Charles Dickens. And that comes under that one's called A Strange Story. And that's the guy who wrote the third story in the book. That's Gary Gianni. You've also got a Christmas themed pin-up in there, which is like a really good bit of art by Jeff Darrow. And there's like a little sort of twisted satirical take on traditional Christmas songs by two of the characters that appear in a story in this book called Toy Box. Now, this one is really strange. It's kind of like a Nightmare Before Christmas type mood about it. It involves giant spiders and spider larvae feeding on dead bodies on Christmas Eve. And I really love the way the characters play off each other in this story. And it's like the two other stories in this book next to the Hellboy tale are both stories that are like lesser known obscure comic characters, like create your own stuff, but like things that have only seen print twice in their entire lifespan, which I found quite interesting because I'd never heard of them before, and I was like, what's this Toy Box thing? And I went looking for stuff about it, and there's very little out there. The same for Corpus Monstrum. There's not an awful lot of Corpus Monstrum that's been published, or an awful lot of Toy Box, so that was like a learning point for me, basically, from this book, and I quite enjoyed both of the stories. The Corpus Monstrum one being a kind of like Christmas exorcism type deal, where he goes to kind of lift a curse, some family curse off a like a rich lord living in a house on his own. He's like the last of his line, and it's because of this curse on his family, so they go and try and lift it. And that one has this really cool sort of like old school etching art style that you would find in like old 18th century books, I guess. But yeah, no, the Hellboy Christmas Special overall I thought was really good. No, but I think the best story is the Hellboy one. I think everything else is a little bit weak. I think the Toy Box one, although it's good, and like the optimism of the little girl doll type character versus the pessimism of the rat and everything else, it's not really, I don't know, it doesn't grip me as much as the Hellboy one does. I don't know what you two thought.
Yeah, I would agree. I had the same reaction reading them. They're interesting extras, but I don't know, they feel superfluous. And the Hellboy story itself is quite poetic. It's like a really good type of like Christmas anthology story where it's like a whole complete story, and it does some really interesting things with theme and tone, and it has the classic Mignola artwork of like heavy shadows and like sort of not less detailed but more sort of stylized artwork, and sort of like quick paced action that isn't the center of attention. So yeah, I would agree that the Hellboy focused Christmas story is the strongest of the bunch. And just to confirm, the book won 2 Eisners in '98.
Okay.
It won Best Writer / Artist Drama for Mike Mignola, and that's an award that includes a lot of the things that he'd worked on that year, and this is included as one of them.
Yeah.
And then it also won Best Anthology, where Scott Alley, who is the editor, won that. So it won 2.
There we go. Just to kind of elaborate a little bit, Toy Box, the characters, the rat is Ernie, and the little doll type character is Suda. And giant spider, Santa inside a giant spider. Yeah, I don't want to go any more into that, but it's a bit weird. But it's very Nightmare Before Christmas. If that's your thing, then yeah, you'll enjoy that one. But for me, that one was a little bit lost on me. But another bit of trivia with that as well. This is the same place that Sam and Max came from. So Steve Purcell, yeah. And basically this takes the Sam and Max formula, but then like kind of like dials it up a notch, I guess, because Sam and Max has got like the kind of funny but also a little bit weird at times thing going on, hasn't it? And this is like, yeah, it's the same kind of thing. So on from there, sort of 20 years on from there, we've got another Hellboy Winter Special that I read, and I think you guys read as well.
Did indeed, yeah.
Yeah, this is as is in the name, more of a winter special than a Christmas special, and it incorporates elements of different winter celebrations. Kind of brings it all together. Like the first story in the book, which is my favourite one, is actually more of like a winter solstice story type deal than I'd say a Christmas story. And with that one, you've got it's to do with like an Irish, an old Irish or Celtic deity, I guess, who after Halloween or Samhain would take over and rule until spring, and she would bring the winter, which I'm going to probably butcher the pronunciation here, but Beltane Calich. It's a really good story about like an object that you could use to kind of, I don't know if you use it to control her. I kind
control or summon, maybe.
Yeah, control or summon. Yeah, this sort of like Queen of the Winter, I guess. It's to do with these two kind of, I don't know. Do you want to call them monster hunters, or I don't know what we call these people.
Certainly, the guy is an explorer of some sort, Edward Grey.
Yeah. Okay. So no, Beltane is the it's like the May Day festival. So I've got Beltane is when her rule would end. Her name, the name of the deity was Calich, I think. Yeah.
I mean, the thing being that the bracelet's like this object of mystery that they find in. Yeah. Like I like the way this one starts because it's them like plowing through the snow, like this unprecedented snow at the end of winter in Cornwall. I think it's set in like 1891, and they're commenting on how it's never normally this bad. Like the storms are never this harsh. And then they turn a corner with their exploring, and they find a ship run aground that's not just covered in snow, but like frozen solid. And it all centers around this item of mystery, which it's left kind of unclear, but it basically is the reason for this unprecedented storm.
It feeds into other it feeds into other myths and stories as well. Like there's a famous saint who apparently used it to bring snow to sort of like seal a deal on some land.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's Saint Bega in the Middle Ages. I just love the way that it links all these different tales together, that all these sort of stories surrounding the winter solstice and everything else surrounding winter, they've managed to sort of like link it all together, and it's to do with this bracelet. And in the end, they sort of like, they find the bracelet, they take it for safekeeping, and once they find it, the storm lifts basically. So they were out looking for the cause of the storm, and they found it. And then once he had the bracelet, he has it for safekeeping with what looks like a sort of a menagerie of magical items that he's got. Powerful items, which I really like that story anyway. That one was my favourite one. My second favourite one is the last one in the book. But we'll come to that in a moment, because before that we've got God Rest Ye Merry, which is members of the BPRD and Hellboy just, you know, kind of walking the street. They've been called out to a Santa gone rogue, I guess. He's possessed. He's got this amulet round his neck, and there's like some evil spirit inside him. So Hellboy squares off with Santa in the middle of the street, and there's this punch up, and a mysterious figure sort of appears and tells them that it's actually the amulet, and they need to remove the amulet from him.
The man in white.
Yeah, the man in white. Yeah, and once you get the amulet off him, the spirit leaves, and the guy just sort of like wakes up, and he's like, "What the hell?" kind of thing. But yeah, it's like a cool sort of seasonal short tale, and you get to see Hellboy fight Santa basically.
I gather that this is a lead in to a new run that they're doing, like it's the prelude to that.
I guess it would have been, yeah. I don't know an awful lot about Hellboy. It's quite a black area for me, actually. I'm not I can't say I've read tons of Hellboy comics, actually. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've never read a Hellboy comic, but I mean, I don't know a lot about the Hellboy lore beyond what I've learned from the Guillermo del Toro movies. But this comic has a man whose fighting spirit takes the form of a monkey, so I'm in.
Yeah. And when the story comes full circle at the end, it's basically you find out that it's them recounting the story at a Christmas party, kind of thing. And then the third story in this winter special type thing is the Last Witch of Fairfield. So I don't know about the real connection to winter with this story, but it takes place during winter. Two children go missing in the woods, and you find out that they've actually been sort of led and coaxed away from safety by the spirit of a witch who inhabits dead animals to talk to them. And I think in the end she wanted to kill them, or she wanted one to sacrifice the other, is the conclusion that we come to. It's quite a sad story, actually, and the way this book ends actually ends on quite a downer. So I mean, this was published after Christmas as well, so when this actually came out it was January 2017. So I don't know if I'm reading it at the wrong time of year, or if we get away with it because it's post Christmas. I don't know, and it's not because it's called the Winter Special anyway. So, but I thought I really liked. This was my like the first favorite, like in order of like my favorites in this book is the first story, then this one, then the middle one, because I think this one's more interesting than the middle one. And I like some of the artwork and some of the drawings, like the tree deer thing, like kind of a combination of a dead deer and a tree, and that's where the spirit is at the moment, and that's what Hellboy goes for basically, to kind of try and break the spell. And we find out that it was actually a witch that was executed that's inhabiting the tree, and it's kind of got a Harrow County type thing going on for it in the way the story goes. Yeah. What are your guys' opinions on this one?
Well, I mean, the story itself is always, when it starts off and you've got Abe Sapien, I'm always happy because, like you guys, I haven't read that much Hellboy, but I've read the first couple of trades that Magnolia put out back in the day, and I've always been a fan of Abe Sapien, and I'm never sure of what with this whole book, but I'll get into that later. I'm never sure of what the continuity is, but in this, he's trying to piece together missing time in his past, and it's cool. I really like the snowy wasteland. It just makes you feel cold looking at it, and I think a lot of that is down to Sebastian Fumara's work, which is really, really well. Is very nice detail in the surroundings and in the facial expressions of the characters, which I quite like. And overall, I mean, I like the tale. I like how dark it is, and all the elemental inferences. But if I've got one negative, it feels a bit abrupt. It's the prologue to issue 1 type thing. It feels like it's going to lead out from here. So it doesn't end, not in a satisfying way, but it feels like it just sort of, and there it goes. And it's I want more. But overall, talking about the whole book, I like the way that they visit winter through these different time periods because of Hellboy's lack of age and type thing. It's really interesting seeing these different periods of time depicted, and sort of the general thematic links between them. But overall, I'm a fan of that story, and I quite like the book.
I like that, the way that and with the previous Hellboy special we talked about as well, the way it just sort of goes through different decades and things like that. One story takes place in the 80s, one story takes place in the 1800s, and it's the whole idea that this stuff's been going on in the background and underground for years and years and years. And I should really read more Hellboy.
I'm surprised you haven't.
Yeah, you know what? It's just one of those things where it's a real grey area because I just haven't. It's I don't know why I haven't. In general, I don't know why I haven't. I just haven't. And looking at this and the quality of the artwork and the way this story is put together as well, especially this final story, definitely should read more Hellboy. I think
the trades that I've read have been really good. I think you'd enjoy them.
I think you're right, Ray, in saying that this book was to set up for a new arc or a new series.
Yeah, I think following what Leon said, I think all 3 of the stories in this book end a bit too abruptly. Although if I had to order them, I'd say the first one was my favorite, just because it felt like a complete story, even if it was quite brief. It was just slice of life in this guy who goes around collecting these trinkets.
Yeah.
I like the second one a lot because the way it started, it gave me the thing that I wanted from Christmassy books, where it had on the nose Christmas themes, and it was just bouncy fun.
Yeah.
And then I think I didn't like how that was resolved, because it was just a man gives them the answer to their problem. And then the last one, because it's so ambiguous, it didn't really explain. It wasn't very clear what happened to the children and how, what was going to happen to them next, if they were going to be okay, what the final resolution of that spirit in the forest was. But I think the artwork in this one is the best. I just loved seeing how, them walking through the snowy forest with the sun filtering through the trees and everything. That was great.
There's some really nice close-ups of facial expressions. And I love the design of the beast at the end, basically, part tree, part deer. I like that. That's just my kind of thing. But
and Hellboy smashing it to pieces, and you can't tell if it's branches or bone. Some of that's really cool.
No, that is really cool. I like that. There are some really great close-up panels of faces and things, and the way he draws facial expression and different. Just this book. This is the best artistically, I think, of the stories. For me, it goes order first, then this story, then the middle story. But they do all end a bit abruptly, but it's a very good book again.
Also, before we move on, my favourite part of this book is at the very end, where there's just a drawing of Hellboy in this rocky landscape surrounded by penguins, and it's gorgeous. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah. The Antarctica. It's supposed to be Antarctica, I think, isn't it?
I'm not sure because it looks really stony. It doesn't necessarily look really cold, and there's like a dragon beast of sorts standing at the top, which doesn't really imply coldness to me. But he's surrounded by penguins. It's interesting.
It is an interesting one, yeah. I like that. Yeah, so on from there is one that I read. I don't know if you two checked in and looked at it at all, or but it's Klaus and the Crisis in Christmasville. I think it's supposed to be Klaus. Judging from the story, I think it's supposed to be Klaus, although it might be Klaus. But I'm assuming Klaus because of the way the story goes. Now, this one it's a one-shot, and it's Grant Morrison. I assume it's a one-shot anyway, because the story ends at the end of the book. But we've got a family in the 80s travelling to visit relatives around in August, in the summer. And they get lost on the journey, and they end up in a place that's not on the map, where it's snowing. And it's like, snow in August kind of thing, you know. And the place is called Xmasville, a place where it's always Christmas. And everyone there, every man is dressed as Santa, right? And they stop for petrol, and while he's filling up the tank, is like, this is really creepy. Why is everyone dressed as Santa? And he has to use the phone. And you just, as you're sort of going through the first few panels, you just sort of see creeping in all these signs for a company called Polar Cola, right? And he gets inside, and you can see him on CCTV. All of a sudden, the lights go out while he's on the phone. He's like trying to ask for directions. He's going to his mum's house. He's like, Mum, you know, with Santas everywhere. We're in this place called Xmasville. I've got to go. And then like all the Santas round in on him, kind of like take him away and dress him as Santa. He becomes one of the Santas. And he's like telling his family to run, so they all try and get away, but then the Santas close in on the car. And it turns out it's all part of some weird plot where the man who founded Polar Cola has been fighting some secret war for years for Christmas. He wants Christmas. It's like, I think it's something that's been happening for generations through his family as well. Like he's fighting some secret war over Christmas, like the rights to Christmas or something like that. And in order like to get the technology to fight back against the actual forces of Christmas, which are people like Klaus and some of his friends that help him out in this, like Grandfather Frost, which is like the Russian Santa Claus and stuff like that. He's been doing deals with an alien race to get weapons, and what they do is he has a kind of dark reflection of Klaus, who I guess represents Krampus. I don't know, but he's like some big evil werewolf version of Klaus that sort of like a dark reflection from the beneath. Like there's like two worlds here, like one's a shadow of the other type thing. And he's been kidnapping children for Polar Cola, and Polar Cola have been giving the children to the aliens because the aliens like to smoke their imaginations. They put the kids in these like giant bong things and smoke their imaginations, right? And it's mental. In exchange for that, they get alien technology, and then with the alien technology, they go to war with Klaus and his, you know, the forces of Christmas kind of thing. And Klaus has got like this really cool sleigh that's pulled by magic wolves, and the wolves have the names of the reindeers, but like, you know, like Donna, Vixen, Prancer, but they're wolves instead, like white magical wolves. And I just think it's great. Some of the artwork in it's fantastic as well, and like there's a guy who's supposed to be he's like the guy in charge is very old and very ill, and there's someone taking over from him who's like typical 80s businessman, huge shoulder pads, massive mobile phone, but he looks a bit elfy the way they've drawn him, you know, like a Christmas elf with like the like rosy cheeks and freckles and like the pointy ears and stuff and ginger hair. It's absolutely madcap, and it's insane, and it's one issue long, and it's brilliant. The writer is Grant Morrison. art duties is Dan Mora. You've got a variant cover that's been done by Frank Quietly. Another variant cover by John Cassaday. Colours by Laura Martin. It was lettered by Ed Dukeshire, and I just think it's fantastic. I loved this start to finish. It's published on Boom. This is Boom Studios. The artwork itself it looks like pencils, like really kind of the way the colours are done and everything. It's really got like a really warm kind of texture to it, and it's like pencils and paint, and it's beautiful. Or maybe even chalk, actually, I don't know. It's just got that texture about it that it's really kind of grainy and warm, kind of like the feeling you get when you listen to a vinyl record. That's like me going all synesthesia on you now, but yeah. This is what I get from it, and I love it, and I love the character designs. I love, again, for me, like a big thing in comics, I'll always talk about it because I always mention it when I talk about art, is facial expression.
Yeah.
Like, I like exaggerated facial expressions, and I like it when it's like really clear what these characters are feeling, and when they can get that across, and you can imagine these expressions on people's faces and perceive it actually happening. Like, because in some books you'll get it where it falls flat, where someone's supposed to be angry and it doesn't come across quite right in the way the face is drawn, or it doesn't look like you imagine an angry person would look. But then sometimes they get it really, really right, and you see sort of like facial expressions and lines in faces, in the way faces move and things like that when people pull faces. And that for me is like a big thing about of getting across a story, like the way people draw expression and the way people get that across to you through the panels. It's great. So yeah, this one's a good one that I think you two should probably check out. It's not very long, it's only one book.
So while you were talking, I actually just purchased it through Comixology, and I skimmed through it, and it looks fucking amazing. I also discovered that there is an entire book called Klaus, or Claus, which I just found on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's been described as Santa Claus Year One. So I'm sold. I'm going to pick this up. But yeah, I think there was a 2015 run of 7 issues that already exists here.
I might have to buy that then, because this is something else. It's absolutely brilliant. And I am on board from page 1, so I think you guys should check it out too. But definitely, yeah, Santa Claus Year 1. Sounds fantastic. I guess that brings us towards the end of the list now, because we've only got one book left to discuss, which is the one that we all read, which was our big favourite of the bunch. This is the one that we were kind of like wanting to finish on because it's a really high note and it's great. And this is the Batman Adventures Holiday Special. So the Batman Adventures comics are based on the Batman animated series, the sort of early to mid-90s Batman animated series that was the Paul Dini Bruce Timm TV series, the Paul Dini Bruce Timm cartoon. And I just thought I thought this was inspired, like from start to finish. Like every single story in this book was fantastic and left me with a smile on my face and made me feel Christmas. It did. The first story is the Clayface Batgirl one, which the high point of which was seeing Detective Harvey Bullock as a really awful mole Santa. And I just think it hits all the right notes. With it, just, you know how some Christmas stories will feel like they have been written, and they've just said it's Christmas just to make it a Christmas story, where it doesn't actually feel like a Christmas tale. I don't know if you guys have ever... You guys know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, this actually feels like it was written with Christmas in mind, and actually, rather than one being shoehorned into the other or one being painted to look like Christmas, it's actually like one thing where the subject matter and the seasonality sort of mesh perfectly. And it's got the right balance of everything that makes Batman great: the campiness, the fun, the darkness, like noir, madcap, violence, and everything else, where it's dark, but it's funny because it's got a clown face on it kind of thing. It's like... I mean, yes, I mean, what do you think of the Clayface story? What were your favourite moments in that one?
I mean, overall, I really like this book because this is exactly what I wanted from a Christmassy themed thing. Like you said, the Christmassiness seeps into every single page.
Yeah.
But his first story, it's a really cool introduction to what we're going to get from this book, like these fun little adventures which give a slice of life of our heroes in this, time of holiday cheer. And I like that Barbara's sort of just hanging around doing her shopping when she stumbles upon this this emergency that happens. And if I had to pick one thing from this book that I loved was the sequence of her running to the changing room and changing into her Batgirl outfit, because this embodies like how well it balances the fun, campy, and dark stuff. Because it's her struggling to get into her outfit, but she also like steps on a needle, which kind of foreshadows the fact that she loses the use of her legs and has no feeling in her feet, and the fact that, I don't know, it's just it calls on all of these things that I know about this character from the beginning, and just makes me feel really happy and sad for her at the same time. And it's wonderful the way it's put together. Yeah, and it's really animated as well. Like I like how simple some of the designs are, and because it really harkens back to the animated series, which we know and love. But like little things where we get 3 panels of Clayface like sucking in air and then spitting out goop onto the cops' guns. Like just the way those 3 panels transition is beautiful. I love this.
The way Clayface is doing his little operation, where he's like splitting himself down and turning himself into like an army of kids. And things like that, and just the really, really badly put together GCPD sting operation with Bullock and
Montoya.
Yeah, why am I? Oh my god, I'm kicking myself for not knowing that. But yeah, Bullock and Montoya as an elf and Santa, and Bullock is like this really slobbish Santa surrounded by like empty beer cans, and he's got like food all over him and stuff, and he's like, and there's this really touching moment where one of the kids that comes to see him is like the daughter of someone that he arrested. And he's like, okay, here's $50 kind of thing, because he feels awful. So as hard and horrible as he is, he does have a heart, I guess. And yeah, the artwork in it is fantastic, and I just love, like I said, I just love the way it's put together, and the seasonality of it, and the campiness and everything else, and the way that I mean, We've actually skipped over, because this book has like a really nice intro as well, because it's like bookended by like a short intro and a short outro type thing, and in between you've got these other stories. So the next story, moving on from the Clayface one, is one.
But before you move on from that, none of you noticed on page 10 there's a splooge page instead of a splash page?
Yeah.
I just thought that was one of the more special uses of onomatopoeia sounds, as Batgirl drop kicks Clayface in the neck. I just thought, like, man, like kid me would not have got that. Yeah.
No, yeah. There's some really great moments, and it's the next story is the one with it's Harley and Ivy, isn't it? The Harley and the Ivy.
Actually, sorry to do the same thing. Just to go back to the jolly old Saint Nicholas story, I learned a new piece of terminology from this. He called the cop Bullock calls Clayface Frosty the lawn cigar.
Yeah,
and I was curious what that meant, and I googled it, and apparently it just means like excrement on the ground.
Yeah. He's talking about dog poop or something. I got that when he said it, when I read it. It's like Frosty the lawn cigar.
I had an inkling, but I just had to look it up. That's a great term.
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
it's all this stuff. I mean, I think they can go a bit harder in the comics than they could in the cartoon back then. But like this is what made this TV show so great as well, is the fact that they dared to do stuff like this in a kids show, like jokes like that, and things that are maybe a little bit would probably been frowned upon, I guess, by parents and things, but I don't know. It's great. I love it. The next one, the Harley and the Ivy, is this is the one where Ivy and Harley are lying low in a little horrible bedsit thing somewhere, and they're like, oh, why have we got to stay here? And like, oh, because the heat's on still. We can't go out doing anything ridiculous. And Harley's crying because she wants a Christmas tree. And Ivy's like, but why do you even want a Christmas tree? Don't even celebrate Christmas, you're Jewish, kind of thing, you know.
Supporting botanical genocide.
Yeah, and don't want a Christmas... Yeah, A, it supports botanical genocide, and B, you're Jewish. Why do you want a Christmas tree? And they hatch a plan in the end, basically, because they're bored, to have some fun. So what they do is they turn up at one of Bruce Wayne's parties, and they have got Ivy's special mind control lipstick stuff. And they use it on Bruce Wayne, and they take him on a shopping trip, and they're like using his like credit cards to buy stuff. And it's just like a montage of them just like rinsing his bank account basically on clothes and shoes and jewelry and everything. And what I really like about this is they carry the joke on, because there's a point like halfway through the montage where, or towards the end of the montage, where Ivy's like, Harley's looking at a Christmas tree, and Ivy's like, it's still no, kind of like drags her away. In the end, obviously, Bruce Wayne kind of fights back and fights the toxin, gets wise to what's happening, and the two girls end up in the slammer. But yeah, it's a great little story. That one's really fun. Like, really, really fun. I really like that one.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think they're a fun pair to put together, and you can see why that sort of become a lasting thing. But I think definitely the sort of Tim Dini era really established these two as a fun pair, because what a lot of this whole special does, it reminds you that Batman can be fun and not be campy at the same time.
Yeah,
it doesn't always have to be like brooding and dark, but you're not sacrificing seriousness by having a bit of fun with it. And the show and these comics were always really good for that.
Yeah, it basically shows you that Batman can be fun without being 1960s Batman.
And like, it whiplashes really well, because there's a bit where Harley thinks that Bruce has died.
Yeah,
and she's terrified and shocked by it, and then she remembers that they were going to kill him anyway, and it like just whips from one emotion to the other. I mean, to step back a little bit, like, I like how you were talking about facial expressions earlier on. Like, the facial expressions in this book are amazing. Like, just the excitement on like Harley and Ivy's face when they get the credit cards and they're doing this like impromptu fashion show for themselves, and like little details like how Harley keeps her jester's hat on the entire time when trying on all these different outfits, even when she's trying on hats. Like, there's just so much detail packed into all of these panels. And that moment you said when she's like excited about a Christmas tree and Ivy drags her away with a loud no. Like, I can sympathize as somebody who isn't Christian and didn't grow up in an Indian household, but like loving Christmas trees because they're bright and colorful and whatever.
Yeah,
I totally get it. I get the fascination.
No, yeah, 100%. And like, one of the best parts of this story as well is at the end, because they get sort of like foiled by a Christmas tree.
Quick, into the toy store. That's their solution to escape.
And they pull, and then at the end it's like Ivy's like, "You're happy, you got your damn tree," because they're kind of like trapped under it.
And then Batman's doing his best like Rob Liefeld Captain America pose.
Yeah.
In the bottom corner.
But like the great thing about the art throughout this book as well is it's all taken from the Bruce Timm style. So everything is styled after the cartoon that we know and love, and everything is styled after the Bruce Timm styles of the characters, which is why the artwork is so great and why the facial expressions are so great and why everything is so bouncy and
and the fact that there's so many short stories in this one book, but unlike the previous ones we've talked about where we feel they resolve too abruptly, these end quite quickly, but they feel satisfying because they're a bit more like jovial with the whole thing, because like you said, they're bouncy, and it doesn't matter that the resolution of this story is that a tree falls on them, because the entire thing is jokey enough to be able to get away with that.
Nice.
And even the previous one where Clayface gets taken down quite quickly, but then it ends on like a moment, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's because they're complete stories, because it's a caper and the plan is foiled, and then it's done. We don't need to. There's no like need for like, why did he do this? Why were they up to this? Because it's like, oh, they've escaped Arkham again type thing. It's got that sort of built-in shorthand that we have with all these characters that you don't necessarily get with the Hellboy book.
Do you know why I guess it works like that as well? It's Paul Dini, and he's really good at striking the balance where Batman's concerned, as we've already mentioned, the right balance of fun and darkness. It's like, but the what I think really works is because it's got kind of like the Looney Tunes formula going on. So like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you already know. You don't know. You don't need to know why Wile E. Coyote is after Roadrunner. You just already know it's happening, kind of thing. It's got like that kind of Looney Tunes kind of formula going on, where these bad guys. Obviously, this is like deep seated and underneath all the other layers that we've already mentioned. But this is like part of what makes it a bit zany as well. Is the fact that they are like actual characters that are crazy and bombastic enough and everything else that when they're done in this style, because these characters work two ways. That's what's so special about them. You can work them as really dark, really serious, really how do I put it, noir kind of villains, or you can work them as madcap, crazy, zany, campy villains. And the way it works in this book is it strikes the balance between the two, and it has like the Looney Tunes formula where they escape, so they get caught at the end, they escape, they get caught at the end kind of thing. And it's like it always starts and ends in the same way. And you already kind of have an idea of what might be done or said by these characters and things like that, which I think is great. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the next story, which I'm glad they put this in the middle because it was Feels-A-Rama. And I needed something happy after it, but it was still quite a nice Christmas story, and this one actually kind of made me well up a little bit because it's Mr. Freeze, always with the feels, so tragic. He's sad because he keeps asking, he's been in Arkham and he's like, is it going to snow this year at Christmas? And they keep telling him no, and he gets really sad because there's not going to be any snow. And then he's just sort of, more sadder than usual, basically. And he decides to escape Arkham. All of a sudden, this huge snowstorm hits Gotham. And Batman's been called in. He's gone to Arkham because he's been called into Arkham because Freeze has escaped. And he kind of recounts what happened to Freeze and why Freeze is Freeze in the first place, sort of like the tragic origin of Mr. Freeze, that he lost his wife in a lab accident that was started by people that tried to shut down his experiments because he'd worked out a way to save the terminally ill, etc., etc. And thus he now cannot live outside sub-zero temperatures and is really, cold to all kind of human emotion because of everything that happened to him, basically. And we've got Batman trying to find the source of this storm, basically, this snowstorm that's causing trouble all across Gotham. You've got this cool bit, actually, because, we'd actually had a lot of snow recently in the UK, and in Leicester we've had snow and ice. And when I've been out and about, I've seen people driving and things, and I've seen cars slip and things like that. And it just brought it home to me when I read it in this book as well, when the guy slams the brakes on and nearly hits the family and Batman saves them. And he's like, the Batman just sort of like looks at him and narrows his eyes, like, buy some chains kind of thing, sort your tires out, man. Batman finds the source of the snow, and this is the bit, this is the tearjerker, this is the bit, because when he finds the source of it, it's Mr. Freeze making snow, and he's like, but why are you doing this? And he's like, it's not to cause trouble, it's because my wife liked it when it snowed at Christmas, and it was snowing when we got married on Christmas Eve, and I thought she would be sad if it didn't snow. And then Batman just kind of like lets him off and just puts a hand on his shoulder, and because Batman understands loss as well, because in the graveyard the thing that reminds him is he sees the Christmas wreath at his own parents' grave, and it's just, oh my gosh, oh dear. Yeah,
I read this very differently to you.
Yeah.
I read this as like overwrought melodrama. Like, I love that there's these moments like he slams into it has to be his parents' gravestone, doesn't it? And then like the panel at the bottom is just him like wrapping his cape around himself, looking all like grim and fully resolved again. And like my favorite panel in this entire story is when the little girl who he's just saved, he's handing one of the presents that's fallen out of their car back to her.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you an angel?" And then the next one is just him like with either the moon or a spotlight behind him, with again his cape like flurrying behind him. And it's like he obviously used his hand to grab his cape and wrap it around him as a reaction to what she just asked.
Yeah.
Like, "Are you an angel?" like a vampire. Like, that's what Batman does.
I'm
What
not
little
an
girl
angel.
asks if you're an angel. Strange man.
This one was great as well. This one was brilliant, and this was the tearjerker, as I said. I mean, Leon, what do you reckon to this one? Because I know you like Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good, and I think that it's one that manages to still keep the tone of like the whole book without ending up too sort of self-serious. And like Rahul says, it's just melodramatic in a really sort of impressionistic way.
Yeah.
Which is quite cool. But one thing I thought was quite interesting about this, because this whole issue, this holiday special, was adapted for the it was in the New Adventures of Batman cartoon, which is the cartoon that followed Batman the animated series. And I think it's the first episode of those. So like it's odd because in that cartoon the style is of the newer style, which is a bit more of an evolution of the sort of Tim style. But it's because I've seen that cartoon, and long before I'd read this book, and it's interesting rereading this book and seeing like how different it is, because the book is drawn in the Batman TS style. So I think that's quite cool. But it's interesting because this is the one story that's not in the cartoon.
Oh, okay.
And I wondered, is it because it was like they thought it was too sad or whatever, or they cut it for time? But apparently, like reading into it, Bruce Timm did want to adapt it for the episode, but had to drop the idea because in the Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero movie, which came out in the TS time, Nora Freeze is revived, so she's not dead anymore.
Yeah.
And yes, the story doesn't really work.
Screws with the continuity too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But I quite liked the this story.
Yeah. Did I say this was 1992 earlier in the conversation? Because it's not. It's 1995. I think I screwed that up.
Okay.
If I did, then yeah, I did. But I've got this feeling I said it was 1992. It's not. It's 95.
Instant corrections.
Yes.
You're the authority, Greg. You could say anything and the rest of us would believe you.
Yeah, but you shouldn't. That's the problem.
That's on you, mate.
So the next one in the book is the sort of the closeout, and it's the New Year story. And this is before, because I mentioned you've got the start, the beginning, and end, like the bookends. So kind of like this book kind of spans the entire holiday season, really. And this is like the last story is the New Year one, and of course it features the Joker. And the Joker has decided he's going to make a New Year's resolution. As of midnight on New Year's Day, he's no longer going to kill anyone. But that doesn't mean he can't kill people on New Year's Eve. So what he's decided to do is try and kill as many people as he can before the clock strikes midnight. And he's got this weird madcap plan involving a sonic weapon and a bell and Gotham's version of Times Square, where everyone's having a New Year's party. And it's a race against time for Batman to find him and stop him, basically. And this one's really good. I mean, this one has like the perfect balance with Batman and the Joker, the way you know, like the way where the classic Batman Joker fights are concerned, where they're I mean, obviously they can't really do it in this because of the style of the book and who the book is aimed at and what it's styled after. But you can, I mean, there's the final fight between Batman and Joker in this book. I can imagine that being way more bloody in another Batman book somewhere. Like knives coming out and people's heads getting smashed against brick walls and things like that. And it's just, I think this one was, I thought this was inspired actually as a holiday story as far as using the Joker goes, because I think New Year is sort of like perfect for it. And I really like the way this one went. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's a good sort of classic Joker-esque plan, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Him broadcasting on TV to calling out Batman. it does pull you straight back into that TAS era of just like Mark Hamill's Joker just signature laughing his way through like crazy plans.
Yeah. No, I like this one. This one was great. And the plan was perfect. It's perfectly Joker. Everything was just madcap enough. Everything was just enough slapstick. Just enough of a slapstick edge of everything to stop it from being really horrible.
Well, yeah, I like that the whole premise is that Joker's promising to be good for a year, but that means he has to get out of his system before the year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. And like this cartoony, like I use the word contrived, but I mean it with more affection than this. But like the contrived sonic tech that they use to put into the thing, which can, wipe out the entire city block in one go. And the fact that it resolves with the bell like crashing down onto the Joker, who like he's not actually dead in there, it's not like maimed him or anything. He's got that cartoony ending where he's been flattened by this thing. And like you were talking about the slapsticky violence in this.
Yeah.
Like I love there's a moment where the countdown happens and like it flips between them like really pounding at each other and then the Joker looking kind of calm and happy and serene as he grabs a bottle of champagne, and then Bat smacks him and then the cork goes into his face and then he uses the bottle of champagne to short out the sonic tech. And like just this, there's a real deftness to the layering of this action, how everything feeds into the next thing, next thing, and it's awesome.
And it's like the brutality itself is kind of like played down. Because the fight itself is really brutal, but because
it's grim,
because it's so slapsticky and so Looney Toony, I guess. That's like the magic. This is what I meant by the fact that it's got like this kind of like Looney Tunes line running through it. It's it's great, especially where these two are concerned.
Yeah, and Bat's artwork in this one is the most like chisel chin grimacing version in the entire book, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And
actually looks really stoic and stern, unlike with the Harley and Ivy one where he looks really happy and self-satisfied.
Yeah. And after this you've got like the sort of the closeout which follows on directly from it, and you almost don't notice that you're going into another story when you read it because of the way the title's done, and then the title goes into the dialogue in the book. It's people singing Auld Lang Syne in a bar. And it's basically the closeout. It's New Year. It's struck one, and you've got Batman heading down to this little bar after closing time. Every year they do the same thing. Batman and Commissioner Gordon have like this New Year's tradition now where they meet up and have coffee. And I just think it's really great the way they, those two talking like, I hope we can work together for years to come, kind of thing, and. I just think it's a nice way to close out the book, really. And I can imagine it'd be something that those two would do.
No, it's cool, and it's like 3 pages, but it's really effective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's only 3 pages long, but it's beautiful.
But yeah, it has this dark edge of like not just like, hey, another year down fighting crime. It's all like, here's to another year of survival type thing.
Yeah,
it has this really sort of fatalistic tone where it's like. There's a line where Gordon's like, it was a close one, and Batman is just like, they're all close ones, and it has this sort of I don't know, this not melancholy, but this sort of these times are hard, and like this is a war, and we've done it again. Hopefully, see you next year.
Yeah,
like hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. No, I really enjoyed this book, and I really enjoyed the way that closed out, and I just think it's brilliant. I mean, credits wise, it's all written by Paul Dini, which I think really shows, because Paul Dini writes the best TAS stories as well. When we talk about the Batman animated series, I think all of the best episodes are Paul Dini.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've got art by various different people throughout the book, but it's all sort of taken from Bruce Timm style, and Bruce Timm actually helped write the Jolly Old St. Nicholas story as well. Actually, Bruce Timm drew the Jolly Old St. Nicholas tale as well. You've got Ronnie Del Carmen working on there. You've got Glenn Murakami, Kevin Altieri, Butch Lukic, Richard Starkings did pretty much all the lettering.
And Reba on the intro.
Yeah, it's a really, really good team of people put together, I think, to put this book together, and I think it works really well. And you can tell that they were working closely, and that they were really in sync when they put this together, when they wrote these stories and put them together, because they just knew everything flows together and mixes so well.
But yeah, it's funny with this, because I used to collect this book. I never had this issue in its run, but I have read it in the past. But yeah, I used to collect that book, and it was great because it was my extension of TAS at the time. Because as a kid and over here, you didn't know when the show had really ended, because you just got reruns constantly and you never got it. So, what this comic, rereading this now, is just reminding me of is it just pulled me back to remembering that this was the era, the T.S. Tim Deeney era, that cemented my love for the Dark Knight and his Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just so much tone setting and setting the bar for what I enjoy with these characters. So I know it's a nice nostalgic feeling reading this book and sort of being transported to being a kid and using my pocket money to buy issues and waking up early to watch whichever silly kids program it was so I could see TAS. It was it brings you back, and I'm looking forward to revisiting the whole Timverse at some point.
Yeah, this is me too. I think I echo those sentiments entirely. I've got a few of the comics. I don't own many, but I've got a couple of these old kind of Batman Adventure stories. So yeah, no, these were really cool stories, and yeah. And I guess that rounds up our list of festive books. So that's the list of comics that we read. These are our sort of Christmassy picks. So, I mean, if you're looking for something festive to read over the period, then this is where you go to, I guess. Or this is what we recommend you go to. Obviously, there's a plethora of other books that may be better suited to your tastes, but these are our favourites, and these are what we think you will like. On from there, we've got kind of a list of things we're looking forward to over Christmas and into the new year, comics-wise. So, Ray, we start with what you've got for December 20th.
Okay, yeah, so for December 20th, I've got The Beautiful Death number 4, which we've talked about, Ms. Marvel 25, John Wick number 2, which I'm really excited to see where that goes, and Maxwell's Demons number 2.
Then on to December 27th, sorry, which is these are things that I've picked off from December 27th's list. We've got Doomsday Clock number 2, Diablo House 3 and 4, and then on to January 3rd, where I've got Batman White Knight number 4, a new Batman series, Batman and the Signal, which is Batman and his kind of latest ward in a long line of them. A young man called the Signal, who his origins are in the New 52, where in the Endgame storyline, his parents are Jokerized, and Batman takes him under his wing. On top of that as well, you've got the next Isagi Yojimbo book, Isagi Yojimbo 165. Ray, anything for you for Jan 3rd?
Yeah, so for the new year, there's going to be Crosswind number 6, Mech Cadet U number 5, Minky Woodcock number 2, Secret Weapons number 0. So we read a bunch of the Secret Weapons books earlier in the year, and they're doing a prequel one-shot, it looks like. And then finally, number 1 with a Bullet number 3, which was one of Leon's picks for the last couple of months.
And yes, so to close this one out, there aren't any questions, but I do have a quiz. This is Greg's Regrettable Christmas Quiz.
Oh, God.
And I will be pitting you two against each other. So, from the inside of a Christmas cracker, splattered with cranberry sauce and a dash of gravy, as you sit there, uncomfortably full, it's quiz time. So, what I have here is a list of regrettable superheroes. Some are real, published, badly conceived, failed characters. Others are complete fabrications by me. I'm going to read out the name of a character, and you've got to tell me whether you think it's real or fabricated.
Okay,
so
let's do this.
It will be the first to 5 correct answers for the winner, and there's a tiebreaker as well if you can't do it.
What do we get when we win?
You get
Good question.
Yeah, you get the.
Because I don't play for no reason. Like, come on, give me some incentive.
You get the self-satisfaction.
Oh, that's terrible. I could get that anywhere. I'll play along. Right.
Okay, right then. So, this is so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you in order. So we'll go Ray and then Leon. So Ray first. I'm going to read out a name. You have to tell me whether it's a real one or a false one from the list of regrettable heroes. So the first one, the Bouncer.
The Bouncer. I mean, there's been a video game called that, so I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a comic book hero. I wonder if it's anything to do with that. I'm going to say true. True.
You are indeed correct, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that video game. It is literally a person that bounces.
Literally bounces, not a bouncer to a nightclub.
No, he literally bounces.
Wonderful.
Leon. Ready?
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Dr. Hormone.
Man, that sounds real, but I'm gonna go false. That sounds Greg. You made that.
No, Dr. Hormone's a real one.
Where's Dr. Hormone from?
His own comic, Dr. Hormone, I think. I've got the Regrettable Superheroes book in front of me here, but it's he's like a scientist, and he makes like concoctions of hormones that can give people like super strength and things like that. I think is the idea. It's been a while since I read his bio in there, but yeah.
No relation of Maximum the Hormone?
No, nothing to do with that at all. Rahul.
Yo.
Olfactory man.
Olfactory as in like the sense of smell.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got characters like Chew who can like read thoughts or like read history from eating. So I'm going to go true.
Olfactory man's false.
Ah, did you come up with that?
Yes.
I think you should develop that, Greg.
Leon.
Yes.
Flagstar.
This is why I hate comics, man. I'm quitting this podcast because it could be so real. I'm gonna go to Flagstar.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go true.
Flagstar's false. It's one that I made up. So, Ray, one for you. NFL Super Pro.
Am I allowed to ask questions? Is this recent or old?
I can't tell you.
Say it one more time.
NFL Super Pro.
That's false.
It's a real one.
What? What's it about? Do you have any idea?
It's about it's a Marvel comic. It's got, the cover that I've seen has Spider-Man in it, and it's literally like an NFL player that's a superhero. Like,
do you know if it's a sports story or is it just like the guy's taken that he used to be an NFL hero?
I think he uses his. I think. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but I think he uses his NFL skills to fight crime.
That sounds great. I'm writing that down.
Right. Leon.
Okay.
US number 1.
True.
That is a real one. So you're 1-1 now. You're 1 a peg. Now,
where is US number 1 from? It rings a bell.
US number 1's a real comic. It's about a trucker.
Okay, I've not come into contact with that.
Yeah.
My gut feeling there.
Yeah. Rahul. Fat Man the Human Flying Saucer.
False.
That one's real.
How does that work? I'm writing. You have to give me this list afterwards, Greg.
I'll give you access to the list afterwards. Yeah. So, Leon, Languid Lad.
Languid Lad.
Yeah.
It's got the alliteration.
Yeah, but Greg could be trying to trick.
Yeah, this is the thing. I wasn't thinking whether Greg would come up with something. I'm thinking, could it be real or not? Do you think Greg could come up with that? Languid lad.
I think he could, but is it regrettable? I'm going to go yes, true.
Yeah, it's false. So we're one apiece now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the tiebreaker. Okay, because we could carry on doing this forever. I've got a huge list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the tiebreaker. So the person that gets this one right.
So is it whoever shouts first?
Yes, yeah. Person who gets this one right first wins. So have a think about it and then give me your answer. So Adam X, the Extreme.
True.
Oh, Leon. True. Yeah, it is real. It's real.
Oh, damn.
It was one of those awful 90s X-Men things.
Adam X definitely sounds like something that could come from a comic book.
But it sounds 90s X-Men as well.
It's Extreme with an X as well.
Yeah,
Adam X, the Extreme, and the whole thing with him having these like hooked blades and being ultraviolet and an alien, right? He's an alien, okay, but he still knows that he has to wear his baseball cap backwards. Okay.
I don't know what he looks like, but in my head, I know what he looks like.
He's got blonde. He's got long blonde hair, a braid, and a backwards baseball cap.
Yeah.
When he said hooked blades, I was not surprised.
So yeah, that was the regrettable Christmas quiz, and Leon takes that one.
Yeah,
you get nothing anyway.
I get all the content in the world.
So I'll open up the list to you two, so you can check that out. These list of real and fake ones that I made. But yeah, this all comes from a book that I've got called The League of Regrettable Superheroes, which is by a guy called John Morris, where he's collected all these kind of obscure or really bad ideas from across the years and kind of like written a little funny book about it kind of thing. So yeah. So I guess that has been the Ace Comicals Christmas Special. So I hope you're feeling all the more festive for having listened to us. You can find us in a plethora of places. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter under Ace Comicals. You can find us on WordPress at acecomicals.wordpress.com. You can find us on all manner of podcasting apps and places. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us where, Ray? Because you know this more than me.
iTunes, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castro.
Yep, all the names of the reindeer right there. The only place you can't find us is Google Play right now, and that's because they don't let British people do that kind of thing. I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter under @Bato. You can field questions to the Ace Comicals Twitter account if you want to ask us a question. You can send us questions directly to our email address, acecomicals@gmail.com. You can field questions to Facebook message if you want. You can message the page and we'll answer it. Send us questions. We love questions. Ray, where can we find you?
On Twitter @Monkeh, so that's @MOONKEH. And be sure to send us what you've been reading over Christmas as well. I'd be curious to see what people have been reading.
If you get comics for Christmas, we want to see what you get. And want to know what kind of things you're reading and want to know what how your Christmas is going. Yeah. Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter @Leon Everett, and whether you celebrate Christmas or any other seasonal holiday or you don't, whether you're going to be with family or friends or alone, just try to look after yourself and have a good time. Yeah. Even if you're working at I've been in retail before and it's horrible, but find yourself a good book, a good comic, and I don't know, shut out the world when you can and have some fun. And if you are around other people, have fun with them, and also pimp the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess that's where we're coming from. That it is, it's the Christmas season, but obviously there's a lot of other holidays and a lot of other things that happen at this time of year. So whatever you happen to be celebrating, whatever you happen to be doing, to echo Leon's sentiments, make sure you find some alone time, read a book, tell us about it if you like it, and yeah. So that's Ace Comicals over and out. Merry Christmas, guys.